So I was just saying a second factor for whether or not intervention occurs in a particular case would be the degree of isolation of that country. So I was saying neither Yugoslavia nor Libya, when they were subject to intervention, had powerful allies on their side. Yugoslavia was allied, had some kind of alliance with Russia, but Russia in the 1990s was itself very weakened after the collapse of the Soviet Union. It was going through an economic crisis and so on. Libya did not have was not close allies with either Russia or China, let alone had a military alliance with those powers. So Libya was relatively isolated, which meant it could be kind of picked off without many other powers coming to its aid to defend it. That contrasts strongly with, as I said, the examples of Sudan, Myanmar and Zimbabwe, and also Syria, all of which are closely allied to either China or Russia. And therefore, although there have been calls for intervention, there have been conflicts, there have been atrocities committed, the West's been more reluctant to intervene in those countries because it doesn't necessarily have the stomach for a fight with a power that's actually got, state-of-the-art weaponry provided by China and Russia and so on and so forth. And of course, those countries, Russia and China, are likely to veto any intervention that's proposed at the UN as well. And the third factor influencing whether or not an intervention takes place is, I would argue, the political climate, if you like, the general view towards interventions and whether they're helpful or not. So in the 1990s was quite an optimistic time, optimistic about the possibilities for the use of Western power and Western military force to do good in the world. There was a feeling that now the Soviet Union had collapsed, that the liberal West could actually use its power in a way it had not been able to before to spread democracy and spread human rights values and so on and so forth. The apparent successes, I would argue, against certainly Kosovo being seen as a success, but the apparent successes of intervention in Kosovo in '99 and Sierra Leone in 2000, again, supported this idea that humanitarian intervention can and has worked for the good. However, particularly since the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, there's been a lot more pessimism about the possibility of intervention doing good in the world. There's a feeling that intervention does not work, that actually makes things worse, that actually throws countries into chaos and instability that can last decades. And particularly the rise of ISIS in Iraq, I think, is a good symbol of the dangers of intervention, that you overthrow a government and you actually set the stage for something even worse. And of course the chaos in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya and arguably even Kosovo has not ended and not been ended by intervention, and has arguably actually been increased and exacerbated by it. So we will leave that there. One thing you might do, actually no, we'll leave it there. One thing you might do, the next couple of lectures are going to focus on the arguments for and against humanitarian intervention. So you might want to just jot down, just on the basis of this brief history, what we've done so far, what you might think from your general knowledge, what you've studied already and what you've heard today, what might be some of the arguments on either side. Okay, thanks for listening. Sorry, it's a bit longer than usual.